Before we start, I would like to ask your help to do two things. First, tell a friend or two who you think might like the show. And second, please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The more reviews the show gets, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Thank you, and now on to the show.
They make the trek out to Burning Man for a week and a day. After a lot of work, oh, there's a lot of play. Party, 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 drama, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch. Year after year, they come back to scratch that itch. They all say their lives have been changed. After many years, lives have been rearranged. That change is what this show is all about. You'll see the impact of Burning Man up and out. So sit back, relax, and cancel all your plans. These are the stories about the shadow of the man.
Hello, and welcome to the Shadow of the Man Show. I'm your host, Andy. Oh, yay, that Andy. Today, our guest is Joshua Martelli. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, my dude.
Yeah. So, how did you first get into Burning Man? Like, what was your first year? Like, how did you, what got you to go?
Yeah, well, I actually came across Burning Man sometime in the early 2000s. I think I just, stumbled across it online. And I think for me, I remember initially it was like a visual gut punch, right? The images looked like something between Dune and Mad Max, a little bit of a spiritual undertow. I just had a sense that it wasn't just a party in the desert, that there was something more to it. And that was intriguing, I come from a long line of artists and free thinkers and nonconformists in my family. So the pull for me wasn't just aesthetic. It kind of had almost an ancestral draw to me right out of the gate. So I started digging into it. I found the old E-Playa forums, which to this day I preach as like a wealth of knowledge, way better than anything you'd find on social media. I found all the weird, sub threads and just spent like hours and days reading trip reports and packing lists and subcultural manifestos and how to turn a 5-gallon bucket into a swamp cooler, right? Because yeah, exactly. Because at that time, living in San Diego, I didn't have proximity to the culture the way you would if you, say lived in the Bay Area. So it was sort of like baptism as a digital burner before I could make it back. So life for me was really full between 2000 and 2009. I was building a marketing group in San Diego with my brother. My daughter was born in 2006. And so, like a lot of folks, it was on the radar for almost a decade before I could really get free and make it happen. But in 2009, I finally got an invitation from a high school buddy that was living up in Berkeley, who had been a few times and loaded up my gear and drove up and met him. And we came in on Wednesday of Burn Week. Super excited, very hungry for it. But what I didn't know is that he hadn't told anyone in camp that I was coming. And we're talking, yeah, surprise. And this was a really well-established theme camp placed on Esplanade, a very tight-knit group of folks with about a decade underneath them, serious infrastructure. And it felt like I basically was crashing a family reunion, So I kind of found a spot in the corner of camp next to the pile of rebar and the generator and made that my home. But I very distinctly remember that afternoon, that evening, climbing their 4-story scaffold at sunset to just get a sense of of the space and watched the playa come alive for the first time, and whew, I just broke down. Like the 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 feeling that I had in that moment was like, holy shit, thank God I found this. I'm so lucky to be in this moment at this time in this place. Um, and that night, the entire camp went out for a group walk, and we ended up at Opulent Temple.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at that point in my life, I had spent about 5 or 6 years working in live sound and studio engineering. So I knew what good production was, and that experience just completely rewired my brain and really my heart. Right. I remember thinking, whatever the fuck I have to do to keep doing this, I'm going to do it. you know? um, so I
Did it
spent the
live up to
rest.
your like expectations? Like, because you said you've been spent years seeing stuff online and reading it, and then you're finally there. I mean,
It was so far beyond
oh really?
what, yeah. I mean, I was seeing things with, 2 or 3 different sets of eyes and ears, experiencing it as a newcomer for sure, but also watching, the DJ trigger fire in sequence with, musical drops, and watching the ebb and flow of the energy between the audience and that artist. I think it might have been Carl Cox that night, and I had an appreciation of electronic music at the time. I was a huge, fan of Chemical Brothers and sort of the
Mm,
earlier, Aphex Twin, those guys,
yeah.
but I wasn't very familiar with actual house music or dance music. Um, and man, did I get an education that night, that is, kind of stuck with me um, since then. So I spent the rest of that week kind of just observing and helping, and really became close with those folks pretty quickly. And after that first burn, I came back to decompression. I came back a few weeks after that for Bunny Jam. Anything that camp was up to, Halloween parties, Thanksgiving, New Year's, I was all in.
And where was
I
that camp
traveled.
based out of?
That camp's based out of Oakland.
Oh, okay. So you'd go up from
It
San Diego to Oakland and go visit?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, racked up a lot of frequent flyer miles that first year.
Yeah.
And by the time 2010 came around, I was pretty fully integrated into the camp, right?
So were
Didn't
you
feel like,
like a kid in a candy store because you were like, oh yeah, I went to Opulent Temple and I saw them, but then it's like, but then next door there's these people, and then next door there's these people, and look, and there's like there's
it,
Robot Heart over there, and like and there's this and there's that. Like, I mean, was it just
yeah,
blowing
that's
your?
it did. That's exactly the effect it had on me, because I, you know, what the mutant vehicle scene blew my mind. Um, Not just the dance clubs, but the small little bars back in the city I found endearing. I discovered the Golden Cafe in the French Quarter. It just seemed like every corner that you would walk around, there was something fantastic, and you could see you know the weeks and months and years worth of hard work and blood and sweat that were put into that thing to bring it out here for you to enjoy. And importantly, one thing I learned very early on is how easy it was to just walk up to the people involved in that and just talk to them, you know, just strike up a conversation. And the value and the meaning of those exchanges and how those could lead to friendships became apparent to me very quickly. And that's exactly how I became, so well integrated into this camp, into Zoom. Zoom is the name of our camp. So
Was that the same camp that you first went with in 2009?
yeah.
So talk about Zoom. What is Zoom?
So Zoom was a collective of folks based out of Oakland, and I would say the underlying thread there is fire spinning. They were part of Conclave for decades, and the founders, John Dickinson and Marion Borst, are absolute wonderful people who I think really understand the value of community. Um, And so, you know, they participate in Ren Fair. They do all this neat stuff. They're just big. They're amazing leaders, and they're really good at sort of organizing and building communities. So they've got this neat little compound in Oakland that they host, you know, fire jams and fire spinning and art making. They've got a full size lyra, and it's just a neat space, and that's really been, you know, the backbone of this camp, because these folks, especially those that live up there, gather every couple weeks. You know, they also go to concerts together. You know, fire jumps, regional burns. So I think part of the secret of the magic of our camp is the community and what we do together all year round. You know, we don't just show up once a year and throw a camp together and go our separate ways.
Yeah.
It's a family. You know, it's really a family.
So who you said this was
You
started
know?
by John Dickinson and who else?
Miriam Borst, she goes by Shimmer, is his partner, and John and some of his roughneck friends started coming to the burn. I think probably around late 1990s, but the camp itself we discovered or identified this year. We celebrated our 20th anniversary this year.
Oh, wow.
So
Congratulations. Man.
yeah. Um, Between 2011 and 2013, I did a handful of solo burns. So I wanted to experience what, you know, what the event and what the city would be like if I wasn't in a camp. So,
We just
you
camp
know,
by
I went
yourself,
off.
like open camp.
Yeah, yeah, kind of open camping. You know, there was a handful of years in there where I was completely solo. There was a year that I camped with the French Quarter. And then there was a wild year where I camped with Giggsville. And shout out to those guys. They're a wild bunch of whiskey drinking, you know, fast paced folks. And I loved it. I actually met Smoke Daddy and some other amazing people while camped at Giggsville. Smoke designed the neon for the man for years. I think he did this year again, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, shout out to Bustin and Kat and everybody at Giggsville for inviting me in there. That was wild. Then in 2014, I got this weird Facebook message at midnight from a guy named Jim Graham.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we had just bought and were operating the Mid 400 off-road race. We'll get into that, but suffice to say, I was working as an off-road race promoter, and Jim was a Class 11 Volkswagen Bug racer. Believe it or not, there's a wild group of wacky weirdos who race stock Volkswagen Bugs in the desert, and Jim was one of them. And
Not the dune buggy version, just like the stock.
stock, like they make zero modifications other than a window net and a fuel cell.
Wow.
And Jim was just trying to ascertain. He was basically lobbying for these guys to have their own class and not be lumped in with like vintage vehicles. So I was like, yeah, sure, we'll pull some favors and make that happen. Well, what I didn't realize is Jim was known as Ron John, and at the time, Ron John was the head of PR for the org. So we struck up a friendship that was rooted in off-road racing, but very quickly connected that next year, or that year in 2014 at the Burn. And that led to me having this very unique opportunity to meet everybody in Media Mecca and start to learn about some of the mechanics behind the curtain, right? Like BLM logistics and safety protocols and interagency choreography. I had a real strong interest in all of that because our races used a lot of the same working pieces and parts. Like we rent land, that's BLM land. We bring a shit ton of people out there. We have to keep them safe. We have to clean up the trash.
Insurance,
and
marketing, organizing, full 90.
you, you name it. Every the only thing we have a distinct advantage in that our scope of when we're open is 2 to 3 days, not, we don't have to be out there for a month and then host
You're not building like
77.
all of this infrastructure and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's all kind of, it's much more temporary. Thank God. Right. So, yeah, so meeting Jim was a real pivotal moment for me because,
Well, you know, when did you meet Jim?
I met Jim in 2014.
2014.
Yeah, yeah. And so from 2014 to about 2016, I essentially would go up and still camp solo, but go hang out with him and hang out with all the media mecca folks and just run around and see things from more of like an inside perspective. So it was a cool experience that I don't think a lot of people have the opportunity to to go through, and I recognized very early on the value of that, and also so many things that I could potentially take back, to my own
So were you
world.
volunteering with them or helping, or you just kind of like
I
you know,
was a clinger on. No, volunteering up there never occurred to me because it was as much as I was gleaning things from it, it still was important to me to disconnect from work mode, right? Um, but you know, it I think we'll get to this because I lead a camp now, but I think my calling was going to be different in terms of how I was going to find a way to give back to the community.
mhm.
And, but I love those years. Those were great years.
Yeah.
About 2016 is when I reconnected with Zoom, and I camped with those guys from 2016 through 2022. And after the 22 burn, that's when our founder John sat all of us down and said, hey, life's kind of taking me in a different direction now. I've got a young daughter I need to focus on.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, I think you actually said it right in one of your earlier podcasts. There was no big reveal, just a quiet vote of confidence for us to become the doers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life
So
includes, just one day, it's just like, nope, you shall be doing this now.
right, right. And so when we had that camp meeting, it wasn't like some big important decision making moment for the camp. We definitely wanted to keep it going, but I just kind of quietly raised my hand and said, hey, listen, I've spent the better part of 15 years working on, operations plans and cartography and maps and movement schedules. And, I developed spreadsheets for 7 or 8 different departments. That's my day job. So when it came time to sort of appoint somebody to lead the camp, my attitude was, well, hey, I will do the paperwork. I'll be the intermediary between us and the org, and make sure that we deliver everything that we need to on time, and keep this whole thing going. And also, this shouldn't be about some sort of hierarchy, right? Like, we all need agency and ownership in this. This is a family effort. So let's just understand that everybody's opinions are valid. We need shared leadership and shared ownership of this thing. And so
So after you made that speech, where everyone just like, okay, great, yeah, you got the job.
uh, exactly, they're like, okay, you're the lead.
I just got through this whole speech.
I know, but yeah, so 23, 24, and then this year 25 officially as camp lead, and I love it. It's incredibly fulfilling and gratifying, and it's an amazing group of wonderful people that have very eclectic backgrounds, and to be able to spend that time with them in that space is incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. So I did an interview. It's well, for the viewers, we're now talking, what is this, September 20th?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, this well, by the time people listen to this, it'll be like January. Um,
Right.
there, I recorded an interview with Wolfie, and so she's the mayor of Illumination Village or Illville, and
Okay,
so
I
I'll
know.
tell you the same thing I told her. Like, it's like you need like a sash, like from Night Before Christmas. It's just like mayor
Yes.
and
Yes.
top hat, you know,
Yeah.
and white gloves.
Well, the funny thing about it too is so we're referred to as TCOs, theme camp organizers,
Hmm.
and there is a TCO Facebook group, and I'm sure there probably was a mixer, this year, or there's been some sort of official or unofficial gathering of TCOs, but that Facebook group is pretty wild and funny because the stories that we swap about the things that we go through,
Oh man.
and just sort of trying to corral. And mind you, like for us, we're a camp of anywhere from 30 to 40. We sort of ebb and
It's that.
flow,
Yeah.
mainly out of Oakland, but we have a wonderful contingent of folks from England that come over too, anywhere from 8 to 10 folks from the UK. So to me, that's like doable and manageable. When these guys and gals are talking about managing a camp of 100 or 150, I simply have no. It would have to be like a full-time job,
Yeah. I even
year
heard
round.
people like camp like 300 and like more. I'm like, are you insane? Like
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Giggsville had a neat way of doing it. Like they had the village style, and so there were a few shared assets, like the barbecue, and I think they might have had a porto or two, but mostly you had a small village of your close friends within the larger camp, and I actually saw a lot of value in that too.
so
Still
what's the,
tight, still people
yeah, so
hanging
what's
out.
the difference between a village and a hub then? Is it pretty
Dude,
much
you
the
got
same?
you got me. The takeaway I think is, if I'm not mistaken, hubs are about sharing resources. Maybe it's water, power, things of that nature. Um, but I think a lot of us kind of scratched our head when it was announced officially that villages are no more, and now we're calling them hubs or whatever. Um, it honestly has never really affected us as a camp because I think we're small enough and nimble enough to just still be a traditional theme camp. And we like that. There's something about like knowing everybody in camp really, really well.
Yeah.
Like we eat dinner together. Um, we go out 2 or 3 nights together as a camp, and people break off eventually and things like that. But we put on 2 or 3 different nights of fire spinning and fire performance while we're out there too, and have a wonderful complement of the sketchiest playground equipment you've ever seen. So, so that's our gift back to the community is when you're walking along Esplanade and it's bar, sound camp with a million LEDs, and bar and then sound camp, we're like the one playground that you come upon that's super fun for you, for the kids, for the families, an amazing cush lounge to sit down and relax in, and just friendly people. And you show up at the right time, and we're gonna teach you how to spin poi. Um, and you come by at night, and we might be doing fire jump rope, right? So um, it's neat to be kind of rooted in more of the old school, you know, theme camp vibe.
Do you remember? I don't know. This might have been like early on, but I remember there was like a flaming soccer kind of thing, and basically it was like you light up like a toilet paper roll on fire. Then you just
Yeah,
fucking moopy as hell. Nowadays, people be like, "Oh my god, what the hell are you doing?" But
yeah, we've done fire kickball, that was not toilet paper, it was an actual ball, and had many arguments about whether that was moopy or not. We did fire baseball one year, and Yeah, I mean, it's like it's always like walking that fine line between like, hey, this is how we used to do things, and hey, man, that's not cool anymore. you know, like we run into that occasionally, but
So are
but
you guys like always on the Esplanade?
um, in the 20 years that we've been out there, I would say probably 15 of those we've been on Esplanade. We've asked for years off occasionally, like you know, 23 wasn't a hard year for us with all the rain because of the rain. Like we're a very seasoned camp and we kind of go into it with this attitude of like from the second we hit Gate Road to, you know, Wednesday morning if we have to of post event, post burn, we need to have the equipment, the food, the water and the resources to not just survive but to be comfortable. So there's a few of us in camp with RVs, and when shit hits the fan, we help our friends, out of their tents and their shift pods. Um, it's a sort of a do or die, Goonies type of attitude. So it wasn't the rain that year that stressed us out, but we were on Esplanade that year, and we had between like 20 and 30 people wander into camp, um, really in kind of mental and physical distress. Um, and that was an interesting twist because we were sort of, stuck in camp because of the mud, drinking all of our beer. We made our own mini man effigy that we were burning and suddenly realized, oh shit, there's actually a lot of work to do here. Ramparts full, Rangers are, spread 6 sheets to the wind. There's not a lot of good intel coming over BMIR at that point. So we kind of went into triage mode. Luckily, we have I think we had 5 nurses and one physician's assistant in camp that year. So we were sort of uniquely um, positioned to help a lot of those folks, but it took a lot out of us, after 3 or 4 nights of helping people overcome mental distress and,
I'm taking
giving
this
away.
wasn't like all at once, like a crowd of 30 people, but like over.
Yeah, it wasn't all at once, but it was a steady stream from like, Thursday afternoon through, Sunday night. And
Why
it got,
you guys like, or were the people just kind of going to everywhere, like other camps too?
I think it was happening all over. I think at that year, I think we were at about 8:45. So I think it was people coming back from, the 10 o'clock side who had gone on some mission to see some DJ and, lost their shoes and their jacket. The bike obviously wasn't going to work in the mud. And by the time they got to us, we were just sort of like the front line, you know? Um, so, which was fine. I mean, we all chipped in, we made it work, and we've had people reach out to us since then and say, "Hey, you guys really you saved my life," for one thing. Um, but yeah, we've taken a few years off, like here and there along the way, to just have a little bit of less pressure, let's say, to be as interactive and performative
Mhm.
as you sort of feel when you're on Esplanade. There's this sense of like, hey, get your shit set up early, make it dope, and really interact with the people coming by, and that's our gift back to the city. Is it's part entertainment, but it's also part just like authentic interaction, and it's neat because some of the best conversations and some of the coolest people I meet, are like they've gone on our swings and then our teeter totter, and we've talked them into climbing on our lyra, and they're hanging upside down on our lyra and they feel awkward, but we're like cheering them on, and then they jump down and it's like a post Olympics performance. They throw their hands up in the air and they laugh and smile, and that's neat. And then they come over and they start talking to us, and then it's like, this is, Jason, he works for NASA, or this is, uh, I met a guy named Bob this year from Arizona, and it started out as the most casual conversation, and an hour later we were hugging, exchanging contact information, and he's one of those people that I will go seek out off playa,
Mhm.
in the coming months because of
Oh,
that
yeah.
chance encounter,
Yeah. Okay, one
so
thing before we go too far, you mentioned a couple of times, what exactly is a lira? And it's not the Italian money.
It's not the Italian money. So a lira is a large 30 or 40 foot triangle. It's sometimes four-legged, but most often it's a triangle, like with a rope hanging with a giant it's about 2.5, 3 foot circle hanging in the middle of it. So it's a piece of performance equipment, and it's free floating. So people who are good at performing on the lira, and this kind of delves into like more of like acrobatic Cirque du Soleil type of stuff,
Aerial.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the way that you climb on this free floating circle and move your body in and around it that becomes the performative art form, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it's wild to have that in camp because yeah, people will just stride right in off the playa and hop on that thing, and you're like, you do this professionally.
Well, I'm
Like
sure they
there's
see it from like far away, and they're like, is that Sarah?" It's like, guys,
yeah,
we're going there.
right,
Yeah.
right. We have another one that's sort of on the we call it the lollipop. It's a little bit less intimidating. It's about 3 or 4 feet off the ground with a bunch of pads underneath it, and it's sort of sitting on top of what would otherwise maybe look kind of like a stripper pole. Same thing, it'll spin. It's just that it's not hanging, so you have a little bit more control to sort of practice your moves
Hmm.
and then work your way onto the lira. So
Do you guys like
um,
does somebody kind of hang out there? Like if somebody would like try to
mhm.
like, show them the ropes, it's like, hey, like this how it works.
Yeah, yeah, we've got 3 or 4 people in camp that are really good at it. And it's always neat when somebody comes in and they've had a little bit of experience with it, but just want the opportunity to learn.
Mhm.
And so you'll see that interplay between our campmates and these folks, and it's a really fun thing out there to build people's confidence up and get them to try things that they wouldn't maybe otherwise try. Especially in the default world where you're always so pent up and shy about looking silly, right? I feel like out there it's you can shed that a little bit under the right circumstances and with a little bit of encouragement, you know.
And do people
Um,
get like injured? Because I imagine like when you first said, "Oh, we have a playground," my first thought was like, "Ooh,
no,
hey,
no, Andy, we never injure anybody. We've never had any
no, they injured
serious
themselves."
injuries.
You said that.
um, all I'll say is this: we have 5 nurses in camp, so
They're
if things
prepared.
happen, we are prepared to patch you up. And thankfully, this year we were about a half a block away from Rampart. It's it's not as dangerous as some of the stuff we've seen out there.
Oh,
We
clearly.
try to make it safe, but yeah, I mean,
And then the
play
other
at your own risk.
thought I had with you're talking about 23 when like and all these people kept like winding up at your camp. Like it's funny because I was like, why are they winding up there? And then it was like a thought came into my head. I was like, in the marathon, like we hit the wall.
Yeah,
I'm sure people like I'm going out to deep playa and I'm going here and I'm going there. And then on the way back, they're like, okay, I'm just a few blocks from my camp. And then it's just like,
yeah,
I've hit the wall. What's here?
yeah,
Zoom. Let's go in.
yeah.
It's a kind
Well, it's also like the knowledge and the wisdom that you build up having gone for so many years, right? Like, I made all those same mistakes early on. I left camp without clear goggles at night. I left camp
Mhm.
during the day on a bike riding into the city, just thinking all I need is my cup and maybe my ID. And then, a dust storm hits and you're like, idiot, I have nothing to cover my face, and so I think we're all, guilty of being sort of caught off guard by the weather and those other circumstances. And hopefully you learn from that, right? Because it can be dangerous out there. I've been in art cars that stopped suddenly and discovered people crumpled up on the ground with no lights and no indication, with like a half-ass jacket over them. And it's like, dude, you look like a brownie. Like you look like a pile of dust out here. Like you can't just lay down in the middle of the playa
Like
and
passing
not.
out, or they're just like, I'm looking
Yeah,
at the stars. Or,
a little of both. Like we've, so yeah, I think to your point, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of people who took off to go see something and didn't realize, that's a 6 mile walk from, F Street to 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
you know, and needed help on the way back, you know? So, yeah, I mean, again, I think a lot of that wisdom and knowledge is still um, available for people to read about on the ePlaya forums. And I find myself constantly on some of the Facebook groups, Burning Man Facebook groups, when people ask like, "Hey, what do I do?" That's usually the first thing I say is, "Well, don't ask this group of like snarky, crusty burners, what to do. Um, they're just going to shit talk. Go read the ePlaya forums, which started, I think, way in the early 2000s, right? So
Even earlier, maybe.
yeah, I think maybe even late 90s, and shit's changed a little bit, but I think a lot of that cultural wisdom is really sort of sitting there.
Amazed that the ePlaya is like still there. It is kind of like this ancient, like buried treasure. Because yeah, I mean, I remember from like the late '90s, early 2000s. People like, oh yeah, that's how people would like discuss, and it's a message board. I mean, an old fashioned like message board, and you can go like hunt through it, and there's all sorts of hidden gems and things you'll
There are,
find.
yeah, there really are, and I think there's, again, it's a great allegory for Burning Man versus the default world, right? Like
Mhm.
if 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 in the default world, um, you've got an edge to you because most of our interactions, let's be honest, are transactional, and on the playa you let go of that and feel a sense of security about being who you really are as a person. I think the the forums were that for a time. I'm not on there a ton anymore. I don't know if they still are. I mean, social media has certainly trained us all to be assholes. I'm sure that
Yeah.
I'm, you know, but for me, when I was trying to get the basics and the wisdom from the people who had been there at that time the longest, since the 90s, the first generation of burners, it was a treasure trove for me. I still had to learn a lot of things the hard way, even after reading that stuff. But I think you could piece together a first timer's guide from a lot of that stuff that would go a little bit deeper than what the org has time to produce and publish each
Oh,
year.
yeah. I mean, there's lots of different groups. I mean, I know there's my sister podcast, Accuracy Third, is like, they have their annual kind of, like tips and tricks for people, stuff like that. And I know the official Burning Man podcast, it's like they do, I mean, I think there's probably various people on YouTube and whatever, like they all have their, then there's always like the survival guide. I mean, it's amazing. People today, like, newcomers to Burning Man are amazingly like well prepared. Not like when I went.
Yeah,
We read the directions
yeah.
how to get there. That was about it. We're like, okay.
Even that I heard was rough, right? Like,
Yeah.
Thomas Brothers guides, and turn left when you see the floppy sign at mile marker 12 or whatever. It's
Yeah.
it's
We were
changed for
told they're
sure.
like, okay, point your compass in this such and such a degrees and go 12 miles. And we were like, compass? Like,
I know,
uh,
that's proper orienteering,
I
like,
know. Oh, yeah, I did orienteering in school too, like years ago. But I remember like we got there, we were just like, oh, we should have read this thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's, I think, out of necessity and just the growth of the event, right? Again, I think if people had an insight into the the stakeholders, like the BLM, the state, law enforcement, um, they have books, like thick ass books of their, stipulations, they call them.
Regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, we get these same stipulation packets as well, and ours are tiny by comparison because we're not, sort of guaranteeing the safety of 77,000 people for, 7 to 10 days, but it's similar. We've got vehicles that are moving upwards of 150 miles an hour, and we have to, accept the liability of the safety of both the competitors and the public and our volunteers and the media. Some of our races will have 40 helicopters in the air at the same time, because these helicopters follow the race vehicles, the most expensive, like high-end trucks. These are, like $2 million trucks that can move across the desert at 140 miles an hour. What makes sense is for them to have their own personal helicopter above them, essentially spotting for them and telling them, hey, up ahead, there's another truck. Yeah, it's insane. Like it's so Wild West. Yeah. So all that is to say that, like, just the helicopter operations in and of itself is a whole department with a whole rule set, coordination with the FAA. At the Mint, we're working with 2 different airports, and there's helicopters that are up there to film, and now below them there's 30 or 40 pilots who are operating a whole menagerie of drones, right? Drone production, drone filming. When we operate the Mint, we produce a 2-day live stream. It's 2 days of 12 hours of broadcast. And we have as many as 50 cameras in the field. Some are on helicopters, some are on drones. Many now with Starlink technology are on the vehicles themselves. So then that whole thing, just the live stream production crew, is its whole thing, right? And it's all these moving parts and pieces. And again, thankfully we only have to do this for 2 or 3 days. I'm in awe of and blown away by the people that work the burn, in particular the folks who volunteer, and people at the gate, at Mecca, at DPW, Perimeter. Many of those people, when I meet them, it's a heartfelt thank you, because they're the backbone of the city. Like, they make all of this work.
So where is Mid 400? Like, or is it change place?
Yeah, so the first Mint was in 1968. It was a fundraiser for the Las Vegas Gun Club, and it was connected to the Mint Hotel, which is one of the old hotel and casinos that was on Fremont Street back before there was ever a strip. Downtown Las Vegas was Fremont, and essentially what happened was, late 1967 was the first Baja 1000. They called it the Mexican 1000, a 1,000-mile point-to-point race down the Baja Peninsula. And that press coverage inspired the then, director of marketing in Vegas at the Mint Hotel to contemplate doing their own long-distance endurance racing. And mind you, at the time, the people who were into and the forefathers and sisters or mothers of endurance long distance off-road racing, these were all like World War II vets who had some sort of experience in the war with Jeeps and motorcycles, and they were retired from the military or discharged from the military now, and they were seeking some other kind of thrill, so this was like a Southwest post World War II culture rooted in Jeeps, and the Volkswagen culture of taking a bug and ripping it down and turning it into a dune buggy, right? That had matured into, well, it's not a dune buggy. We're not racing in the dunes. We're racing it into the desert. And so all of that kind of fermented and ruminated from about 1968 to 1972. It was a pretty ragtag, not super well organized off-road race. Then in 1972, something very unique happened. An author by the name of Hunter S. Thompson took an assignment from Sports Illustrated to come cover this race, and I think most of your listeners know the rest of that story. You know, he wrote Fear and Loathing allegedly in the midst of a drug fueled adventure,
Mhm.
um, and ended up publishing those articles in Rolling Stone magazine. But if you go back and read carefully, you know, Hunter was there to cover them in 400. That was sort of the reason for him being in Vegas. And that really put the event on the map, and it started to attract you know, NASCAR racers, Parnelli Jones, famous celebrities. Steve McQueen raced the Mint. You know, James Garner raced the Mint. Um, astronaut. You know,
Newman?
and yeah, it just suddenly became this iconic event that if you were interested in motorsports, like you had to go see it or do it or become connected to it.
So what kind of
Um,
race is it? Is it? It's not like just like a single track, like like a NASCAR or whatever. I mean, or is it like is it a course? You go like the 400 miles.
yeah, yeah. So it's interesting in the 54, 55 years that it's been around. It's operated, I think, 36 out of those. There was a 20-year hiatus where the Mint Hotel was sold. It became Binion's, and it just sort of uh, drifted off into obscurity. But the course has changed radically, like 15 or 20 times in that 53-year span. The way we operate it now today is we have a 100-mile loop that starts and finishes in Prim, which is at the California Nevada border. And this 100-mile loop takes you out into the Ivanpah Valley, which is on sort of the west side of the 15 freeway there. You're still about 45 minutes outside of Vegas. And it's a long 100-mile loop that takes you around and through this valley. And it is some of the roughest, nastiest desert that you've ever seen. It's a really, really difficult course. What makes it even more difficult is we race on it for 2 days. So on Friday, we start with the smaller, lighter, sort of vintage, slower vehicles, intermixed with modern UTVs, which is a whole other ball of wax. And so there's, you know, 14 hours of racing. Some of those classes will only race one lap because they're going so slow that if they truly were trying to do 400 miles, we'd be there for weeks. You know, like
Be
the
maybe
Volkswagen,
yeah.
yeah, like the Volkswagen Bugs we were talking about, right? Like those guys are averaging like 22 to 25 miles an hour, you know, for 100 miles. So like,
So are you
you
gonna have
know,
a new class of K trucks next year, or like could be going
yeah,
slower?
it it could be anything. And we even had Rivian show up and throw down a lap in one of their electric trucks. We've had over the years, I think we had an RV out there one year. Um, we're down to let people try as long as it's safe, and we've expanded the amount of classes that we've allowed out there over the years. Um, by Saturday, that course is very torn up. Like we don't go out and groom it. There's no Zamboni for desert racing, right?
Yeah.
And so you can imagine by the fourth lap on Saturday evening, it's like a wasteland out there. The ruts are now 4 to 5 feet deep. Like and you're now racing towards the end of your race in the dark, which makes things insane and complicated as well.
Mm.
So, you know, when people finish on Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening, just finishing our race is a monumental accomplishment.
Pretty,
Our,
sure.
uh, yeah. So, but you know, it's interesting. There's some wildly wonderful corollaries between that culture and burner culture, and because of my introduction to Jim and my exposure to a lot of wonderful folks that work behind the scenes at Burning Man, we've gleaned a lot, and we've borrowed and shamelessly stolen a lot, and it's been everything from recruiting rangers and establishing our own crew of 20 to 30 kick-ass rangers, you know, thank you, Bustin, for the help with that, and shout out to Creech and everybody on the Ranger crew, because having, just like at the burn, having that first line of eyes and ears and problem solvers at our event, it has been pivotal to its success. And then operationally, like if you looked at my current operations plan, which I'm actually writing for next year right now, the way that it's structured and the questions that we're answering and the issues that we're addressing prior to them happening and biting us in the ass and becoming, a potentially disastrous problem. I learned how to do that by seeing the way that the Burning Man organization set that up to sort of coordinate and communicate with state and federal agencies. So
That's interesting. Yeah, I almost look as like a mentorship kind of thing, and it just makes me think like, how many, because I'm sure you're not the only person to have this experience, right? I mean, just how many other people have kind of like been along for the ride and just kind of like slowly been like, or been there quietly in the background or just kind of hovering and just like soaking up all this stuff like a sponge and then going off. And then I mean, how many other like events that we know about? They're like, oh yeah, Coachella like took their ideas and or like they're like, or whoever.
yeah,
I mean,
it,
Burning Man's
it's
influence, like, yeah, it goes far and wide.
I think it has, um, in 2020, when COVID shut down live events in particular in Nevada. We were very fortunate to get a call from Marnie Benson, who works with the legal team for the org, and she was putting together a advisory panel and wanted to um, really pull in anybody who was working in the live event space in the state of Nevada. And it was an incredible group. I mean, we're talking the folks that run EDC, Insomniac, multi-million dollar live outdoor event, obviously, right? But also folks like the rodeo and the Reno balloon event, and sort of like uncommon bedfellows, let's just say, all suddenly on the same call. And what we realized very quickly is we represented billions of dollars of revenue to the state of Nevada. And at the time, they were only allowing, up to 200 people to gather outside. Meanwhile, the casinos were allowed to operate, I think, with 50% capacity based on their fire code, which was, utter bullshit. So it was really just, hey, let's all get together. Let's craft a a sort of set of points that we want to communicate to Governor Sisolak's office, and see if we can't get some change happening by 2021 so that we can all operate. And I just was thrilled with that experience, and to this day I'm still in touch with a lot of the people that I met there, but really appreciated Marnie's leadership in that moment. And so, she and I became friends, and we're constantly, even to this day, swapping notes and information as special recreation permit proponents, that I think have been instrumental and helpful to both of our groups. And shit, we should probably even formalize that. To your point, I guess I'm agreeing. I think that there's a lot of value in the way that certain aspects of the event are run, and certainly in the people that are in those key positions. It's become apparent to me the longer I go that whether it's Heidi in placement or
Oh, I
the
can't.
folks running. Yeah, yeah. Oh, so like
I know.
yeah, those people, whoever's running gate, whoever's running perimeter, like those are like my unsung heroes. Like when I'm at the office party on Thursday, I'm like looking around going, is that who I think it is? Yeah, let me buy that cool ass person a drink, because I don't know that they get the acknowledgement or the love or the support that they should. A lot of them have full-time jobs and lives and kids and stuff, and if they decide one day not to do this, like, that could be very troubling. you
Yeah.
know so
Well, if I don't know, any of those people you think of, and maybe, well, I mean, later on, you could introduce me to them. I'd love to have them on the show because that's kind of part of the reason, I do the show. It's not just, the shadow of the man, like, like what's Burning Man's influencing, but it's also to kind of, yeah, shine a light on people like this we're talking about. People kind of like seemingly kind of like in the shadows that make everything work.
Yeah, no, and that's what drew me into your podcast straight away. I mean, I'm great friends with Nurse.
Mm,
I'm, you know, uh, really good friends with JK, and again, these are the people that I've met over the years. I would say if I've developed one really important skill for being out there, it's like being in a casual whatever conversational moment out there and realizing like this is a neat fucking person that does a really cool thing, and if you're smart you'll just shut the fuck up and listen to what they have to say because there's probably some wisdom and knowledge that's about to get dropped.
hmm
um, and if and when the opportunity presents itself, find a cool way to acknowledge their commitment, of which you benefited. This entire community has benefited, right?
But what's more
uh
interesting to hear yourself talk or like let somebody else like you kind of like throw them a bone and be like, here, tell me about yourself. And like you're saying, like the artist, like going up and it's like, here, this what you've made is incredible. Tell me about it. Like that's what they want. It's people like
yeah,
you. Like let me tell you.
yeah, I met I'm gonna fuck this up, forgive me, Johnny. I met British Johnny. It's either British Johnny or English Johnny, the dude who designed the amazing lighthouse sculpture a few years ago with his son.
On the car.
uh
Oh,
what's
no,
that?
not the lighthouse on the car, but like the station.
No, the massive wooden ones that were tilted
Yeah.
that had the cat. I mean, and they blew my mind because I have a connection to lighthouses, having grown up on Lake Michigan. I met this dude this year, um, so casually on the Media Mecca patio during a volunteer appreciation party, and what started out as just a hey, how you doing, what's your name conversation, like 45 minutes later I'm hugging this dude and and learned a lot about his experience, 25 years in. um,
Wow.
and it's those conversations that sort of restore my faith in humanity,
hmm
and then I come back here and I'm just less of an asshole about the parking spot and the guy bagging my groceries
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And
Like
you know what
sure,
I mean? It's,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, it just takes that chip off your shoulder, because now in the back of my head, I'm thinking that might be a neat person too, but for this weird transactional interaction that we're forced to have because of this
Yeah. And also
matrix.
sometimes it's just like someone's just having like a bad day. It's like it's not just like, oh, everyone like you're just an asshole. And it's like and sometimes just making that human connection, to just be like, look someone in the eye, you're like, thank you, or how you doing? Like it means all the world. I mean, to people. I've even heard some people that like I went up on the bridge and I was about to jump off. I was just waiting for one person to come up, and then one person comes up and it's just like and they just say, don't jump, somebody loves you. And they're like, and they stop and they go
Yeah.
back and they don't jump. you know.
Yeah.
And then I've seen other ones where people leave like a suicide note where they were just like, I went up on the bridge, I waited for half an hour for someone to talk to me or even look at me in the eyes. No one did. And so then I jumped, I'm like, how about this? It's free personal communication
Yeah.
contact.
Yeah. No, dude, it actually happened to me last night. I got a, I got a flat tire coming home from dinner, and I have a big Toyota Tacoma with large, oversized, wheels. Of
Mhm.
course, it's like the work truck, right? And I can't just carry around a full size spare. They're monster vehicles. Luckily, I'm only a few miles from home, but it's this interesting psychological experiment where I'm sitting on the side of the road that the hazard's on, waiting to get a ride from my cousin to come back to our ranch to get the tools we need to go change the tire. It's like, how many people drove past us and didn't stop? How many people made the turn and turned right in front of us and didn't stop? One guy, this one dude pulled up and was ready to hop out of his truck with his wife and help us change this tire. and was going to go home and get tools. And it's like,
Oh.
that's what I think the world needs more of right now. And I think that's what we can learn out there, is to stop thinking so often about, what do I get out of this, and what am I going to sacrifice in this moment, and a little more of like, what is the opportunity here,
Mm.
you know? um, One of the people that I met early on in my camp in Zoom, this wonderful human being, Warren Tresvant. Warren's an amazing artist in his own right. He was an animator for Pixar for years. He worked on a bunch of Peter's sculptures, and did a lot of the animation, for Peter's pieces, like the skeletons that were rowing on the giant disc. I'm bad with names, but like,
Mm.
people know, like, Warren's a really accomplished artist in his own right, and now volunteers and works at the Artery. Warren taught me the value of those lessons, about how easy it was to walk up to an amazing piece of art, look around and probably guess who the artist was, and then just go ask them to explain to you what their art means to them, if they want to. A lot of times they're like, well, you tell me what it means, which is cool too. You know what I mean? But just that,
Conversation. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, just getting over that hump of like being nervous about engaging. And then, the neat things that can come out of it. When I camped with Gigsville and met, Smoke Daddy, there was a night I didn't know who he was, and he looked just like another crusty burner to me. And there was a night where he invited a few of us out, took us to the man, told us, for shit's sake, don't light anything like a cigarette. And then this was like the night they were packing all the fireworks in the diesel. Dave X was doing his thing with the
Oh,
fireworks.
yeah.
So all these guys are scrambling around. He flashes his hard card, brings us inside the man, and shows us what everything looked like,
Oh,
both from the neon wiring perspective and the fireworks perspective.
wow, that's
It was
incredible.
just insane, the amount of like a effort and detail that was going into this thing, that within 24 hours was just going to be blown to high heaven and burned to the ground.
Yeah.
And that opportunity to have that experience came from, um, you know, striking up a conversation with this dude in camp,
Mm-hmm.
and finding something in his storytelling and my storytelling that we could bond over.
Yeah.
And in our case, it was, skateboarding and punk rock music. We were old skaters. So,
You're one of me. Yeah.
right? I can see the scars on your knees, and I have those same scars.
So this kind of
So,
gets to the last question. So yeah, so the impact or influence of Burning Man in your life.
yeah, it's been profound, and I think I could probably, you know, divide that into, professional and personal, right? Like, so on the professional side, I've talked about this a bunch, but like, meeting Jim, gave me this incredible, unique opportunity, to not just show up as like a wide-eyed participant, but to sort of be ushered in behind the curtain, and meet folks working within the organization, many of them volunteers. So whether that was like the legal team, the safety, media and communications, I got this cool backstage view of how culture can be scaled and sort of safeguarded at the same time. So that was phenomenal, and I took a lot of the things that I learned from that, and as I've shared, like, applied them directly to our business today. Whether it's like Rangers, or you know things that we've incorporated into our event. It's always been, what can I borrow from this or steal from this and apply into our world. One of those has been the leave no trace aesthetic. So when we go operate these events in the desert, we are trying to overcome a similar stigma that 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 burners have, which is like, you guys, make a huge fucking mess, and yeah, you say you clean it up, but you're just putting the trash over here
But
or
just the
whatever,
optics
right?
of that, it's like you're going out into this pristine desert and you're bringing these, gas, smoke spewing like vehicles, and you're pulling up the ground, and you're all of the wildlife is running away because you're making all this sound. It's like, don't tell me you're not disruptive, but
Right.
no, we leave no trace, and take a look after we leave.
Yeah. So we went a step further. About 6 or 7 years ago, we decided that before every race, we're going to organize a desert cleanup event. We're going to invite our racers, our sponsors, local media, and importantly, the community. So we reach out to, you know, the people who ride mountain bikes on the roads that we use, horses, they run on them, the Tough Mudder groups, the Rise Festival folks, anybody who's utilizing the Ivanpah Valley for anything, we consider, hey, you guys are your fellow stakeholders in the environmental stewardship of this land. Because if it gets fucked up, the federal government will either sell it or they'll close it. So every year we conduct these cleanups, and pull tens of thousands of pounds worth of illegally dumped trash out of the desert. We're talking everything from couches, refrigerators, tires, to we've pulled entire RVs out. It's rad because off-road people have like crazy vehicles, and they love this. None of the people that are part of our off-road culture want to see trash and shit out in the desert any more than we do as burners. So that's been something that we've been able to do, and over the span of 6 or 7 years, we've now pulled close to 800,000 pounds of trash out of Nevada, Arizona, and California.
You guys
Right?
do like the DEA, like ATF, like display where you have like it all kind of lined out. It'd be like, and then on the podium, like, this is what our volunteers have found.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We shoot content around it. We get sponsors to chip in on it. To people like Republic Services, who are the definitive, trash and recycling group out of Vegas, they get behind it. So it's 15, 40-foot, containers full of trash and plastic and gross shit. And mind you, this is all like recreational shooting territory too. So most of it's been shot to high hell with bullets. So we've got microplastics and stuff to contend with. And we do that because we're operating in a space that is the habitat for an endangered species of desert tortoise. When we race, they're dormant, but it's still the impact that we can affect, right? And then there's just the cultural side of what we've borrowed. We've hired fire performance. We've had some of Henry Chang's amazing mutant vehicles come out and get put on display. So yeah, literally on the professional side, it's sort of been any little influence or inspiration that we've been able to glean.
But
We've
you don't
tried
have
to
mutant vehicles like doing the whole race. Yeah,
No, not yet. Not yet. I
yeah,
mean,
different class.
if you've got a roll cage and a fuel cell, we'll take a look at it. But the challenge is like, can they make it? We've had plenty of people ask, and I'm like, dude, you're
Doesn't you guys
not
do
gonna.
like the Red Bull, kind of like you partner with the Red Bull, and then you get all these crazy people to come out, and who makes it
Yeah,
like one loop around, like.
yeah. Well, the rate of attrition is like 55%. So less than half of the people that start our race finish.
Well, all right.
So
So
it's
before we finish, I was going to get to the impact on you, influence on you, and personally in your life.
yeah. On the personal side, I've been really lucky to be part of a core group of friends, out of the Bay Area in England, like these just remarkable, talented people. It's a really rich tapestry of wonderful folks, and those are my extended family, right? And that's been probably the most valuable thing to come out of the entire experience for me, because those friendships transcend the burn. Yeah, we're gathering for Burning Man, we're going to regionals, the whole thing. But if all that went away and I still had this family of friends, that would be, fine with me. That's the gold.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too is, bringing my daughter out there in 2023 and watching her not only, love it but thrive, was a remarkable shift for me as well. You know, she's 19 now and just told me the other day that she wants to shift her college focus and her major to ceramics and wants to be an artist. And I'm confident that a lot of that comes from her time on the playa and her exposure to that sort of creative freedom,
Wait a
you
minute.
know?
23, mud. Now she wants to go into ceramics.
Right?
I just love mud, Dad. Like I'm scared. It makes the mud hard. Like,
It's in her DNA. It's in her DNA. She has her own wheel in the garage. Like this is a young woman who walked into the garage the other night and made a vase with her bare hands while, you know, I'm in here.
make you buy
You
a
know.
kiln too, or
I looked them up, man. They are pricey. You're talking 2-3 grand and a lot of extra safety shit. And I live in a very crispy, dry canyon, so it's open for discussion. I'm not saying no, but and then I definitely want to mention my partner Brooke. I met Brooke in 2014, and we became fast friends. I actually met her in the commissary of all places, and it was one of those chance encounters that change your life. You know, from 2014 on, we became close friends, and every year when we went back to the burn, we would carve out a night or two to hang out, and it was always magical. It was like almost like an annual emotional and spiritual grounding, you know. Um, and then last year at the burn, life kind of opened up for us, and that friendship was able to grow into something much more and into a real partnership. So this year we celebrated 11 years of friendship and a year together as partners. Uh, Thank you. We were trapped in an RV in the rain playing backgammon, but it was wonderful. So
yeah.
when I tell people I met the love of my life at the commissary salad bar 11 years ago, I mean it. That connection has really changed me, and I'm a better human, father, brother, and son because of meeting her. So she by far is the greatest gift that the burn's given me.
Wow, that's incredible. It's funny. Just another thing I just thought of when we talk about like friendships on the playa, like just for many years, one of the things like I just remember I would have literally some of the best friends like in this world that I would only see during this one week.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah,
And you hadn't seen someone for an entire year, and it's like you hadn't skipped the beat. You're just like, oh my god, you know.
yes, yes. Many people I run into out there, it's the same thing. I actually went to Unscrews for the first time.
Yeah, curious, right?
Yeah, fantastic regional burn. And I've been to Utopia. I've been to the LA regionals, and there's something special about Unscrews, and the number of people that I ran into out there, it was the same thing. It's like it's a group of people I seem to somehow miss every year at the burn just because of its size, and I'm running a theme camp, right? So I'm getting pulled in a lot of different directions. Um, but it's just it's a wonderful community, and I think it's incumbent upon us to continue to work hard to preserve it and to be honest about the things that aren't working that need to be changed and to be vocal about that, you
Mm.
know, because it's easy to sort of sugarcoat it and talk about the good, because I think a lot of us are optimistic people, and we don't want to shit on things without offering solutions, right?
Mm.
And also a lot of people, I think this year especially, kind of for the first time maybe saw and felt some things that weren't working right that do need to be fixed. And it's easy to point the finger at the org and say it's all of their fault, but
You do it.
uh, yeah, yeah. Um, but I'm hopeful for the future. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I do feel like some things need to change. Like we need to find a way to preserve the best parts of this culture and simultaneously be honest about the ones that aren't working or even harmful,
Mhm.
or I think this will go away. You know, there's an economic part of it, but there's also like, um,
Yeah.
you know, the lack of clear messaging about a culture of consent, which
Mm.
I'm now acutely aware of because I brought my daughter out there and my partner's out there, right? Like there's deeper conversations about the future of this culture that really need to be had.
It's amazing
And I
how
think
clearly, like, when you bring your teenage daughter out there and the whole concept of consent, like, yeah, consent.
instantly, like instantly, you know, and it's not like we were apart for very long, and she had a group of, you know, 29 experienced burners around her keeping an eye on her.
Mhm.
But why do they have to keep an eye on her, you know?
Yeah.
And um
Well, it's funny because my
yeah,
son is 17, and I keep talking about like, oh yeah, I should bring him to Brady Man. It's but it always coincides with school, and now he just started senior year. But he has this friend, this young girl named, and very very cute, very cute, like half Laotian, half like like how a white girl. And
right.
I remember like talking about Burning Man, and she got to Burning Man. She's like, I want to go to Burning Man, and I was like, you, not you. And she was like, why not me? I was like, you're trouble.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not you. It's everybody else. Like we're gonna have a
Yeah.
warden around you like at all times because like it's like oh the vultures will be like flying or like circling above and around.
Yeah. I think that I think that the first couple years that you go out there, when you're in the glow of uh, non-transactional communication for the first time, it's really easy to sort of um, it's really easy to sort of let that envelop the way that you see the city, and to forget, or maybe not to notice, that there is another side of it. Like, and 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 I think that insofar as many of us are aware of that and we talk about it openly as seasoned burners, I don't see it very well published, memorialized, or discussed, and it's certainly not coming from the org directly. And that's my personal opinion on it. People can argue if they want, but like, when we as theme camp organizers, when we tell the org that we're going to have fire art, that application expands into like 13 more pages.
Hmm.
And very smartly, we then have to articulate everything from show me a drawing of every nut, bolt, and fastener of your fire art, to um, describe in detail how you're going to store your propane and how much you have. It's a very, very smart way of forcing us to be safe.
Yeah,
There is
safety
nothing.
protocols like what if this happens, what if that happens.
Right, right. And that is necessary, obviously, because people have gotten blown the fuck up out there, right? So
But the unspoken of consent culture, like yeah, there is
exactly.
no page.
Exactly. Where's the 17 pages of, hey, as a theme camp organizer, have you taken the time to sit down and talk to your, let's be honest, primarily male virgins who are coming to Burning Man for the first time, about what consent actually fucking means? And that this is not an anything goes culture, and you don't have the right to put your hands on somebody. And by the way, if a person is inebriated, drunk, high, whatever it is, they don't have the ability to give you consent,
Mhm.
right? Like that's an educational thing. Like, not everybody not everybody is a predator. There are predators. Not every predator. Some of them just lack the education and the understanding to understand what that means. So like, if we as seasoned burners aren't doing that, and the org isn't doing it, then it's simply just not being done.
Yeah.
I would advocate strongly for changing that, because it's through my friendships with women out there, I've come to understand that while they don't feel scared to move around the city, it's certainly, there's still this feeling that some conditions out there aren't safe. And it's one thing if if you're a seasoned burner and you're an older woman and you know how to carry yourself, but there's many young girls that come out at 18, 19, 20s, and um, yeah, I think we can do a better job of sort of educating them and the other people that are out there, and
Yeah. I think it's
fixing.
one of those things with just like I said, like it's just not spoken of, and then somebody like JK, like my friend Jenny K, who does bring these things up. I think a lot of times people just kind of zip their mouth, just kind of like, oh yeah, but yeah, you know, I don't want to verbally acknowledge that there's a problem, but yeah, I quietly agree with you.
Right, right. Like, don't rock the boat. And hey, man, it's a party. Don't bring us down with your heavy discussion. We just want to party. Come
Yeah.
on. Like, you know, take your daughter out there, take your mother, take your sister,
Also, I
and
think
then,
like with the nature of Burning Man, the Burning Man culture, like it- these boundaries are kind of dissolved between people, and people like make these connections with each other. It's like we should be able to have these conversations. We should be able. It's like like a family at Thanksgiving. I mean, it can be raucous at sometimes, but you should feel free to like bring up. It's like Uncle Buck, like you're an alcoholic. you know,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Well,
Be able to
listen,
realize we're family and we can take it, right?
yeah. Well, there's some wonderful books that touch on our inherited culture of of toxic masculinity. Terrence Beale. I mean, read the book Us or any of his books and listen to that guy really dive deep and break down, what it's like to be, a man in America right now. And he pulls no punches. He'll tell you straight up, like, this is the stupid shit that you do and the way that you act. And this is why you do it. And a lot of it has to do with, transactional commercial culture that promotes and espouses the very worst in a patriarchy, and so yeah, we should be able to go out to this place and dissolve that and interact as human beings. And if we're saying we accept everybody and we want everybody to participate, I think it's okay for us to put our foot down and say, except for you motherfuckers, except for you predators, except for you people that come out here and want to, um, manipulate and hurt people because they have their guard down and they're trying to be open to all this other stuff, right? They're trying to grow as a human being and you're preying on them at that exact moment. Man, that is so fucked up,
Yeah.
because then it has the opposite effect. Now the thing that they were told is magical and safe and a platform for self-expression just did this horribly painful thing to them, right? And so as a community, I think we have to accept our responsibility in that, whether it's not talking about it and making it more public, or finding a way to protect. To be honest with you, dude, if you get hurt out there, if you're attacked or raped, I'm not even 100% sure where you go. Who do you talk to? Do you go get a ranger? I mean, I know there's rangers out there that have specific experience with domestic violence,
I'm
but
sure
like,
some kind of protocol, right? Yeah.
I mean, you go to any college campus in America and there's the fucking blinking blue light and the phone that you pick up. You know what I mean? That's in
Yeah.
the parking lot. Like, so there's just stuff like that
I would
like,
hope that there would be kind of more of a organic going forward. Hopefully there will be like more of an organic community response. So like if somebody is speeding by Zoom and then crashes their bike, and they fall down and like they broke their or whatever, they skin their knee, like 5 or 6 people will kind of run out, right? And
yeah,
it's like, oh my God, let me help you out. Here, come sit down. Here, let me get you like a towel to stop the bleeding. Here, have a glass of water, whatever. I'm just hoping that that same mentality will go not just for like physical harm, but for like
yeah,
we're talking about. It's like if somebody comes in the camp, be like, that dude over there is skeeving me out and being really sketchy. That 5 or 6 people will kind of come out and just be like, call the guy out and just be like, hey, dude, that's not cool. And you know what? Sit down. Look, we're going to talk about this, and you're not going to do this again. And
yeah.
everybody as a community, we all kind of come together. Then it's like we sort of like a vaccine. We kind of inoculate ourselves against it, right?
Yeah, we have that is exactly the way it should be, because what I've learned is that the the community built and community led initiatives in that space in particular are oftentimes way more successful than things that come down from the org. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting the founders to get together
You've
and
written a lot.
structure yeah, although I do believe there needs to be something, but but I agree with you. I think it does need to be something that's community led.
Bottom
And
up.
also, we have an uphill battle. What was the number one story that came out of the burn this year? The fucking orgy dome is broken. Like, come on. Like, I get it. It's clickbait. It's sensational. Blah 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 blah. But there were a million other stories that have now poured out on Facebook and in the forums that were stories of camps that got destroyed and their neighboring camps chipped in and helped them. People who got lost or got stuck in their car on Gate Road for 21 hours.
Yeah, like
And,
me.
yeah, and got brought water and a sandwich so that they could survive the next 6 hours till they made it to camp.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's part of it, is finding a way as a community to publish and promote the things that are less sensational, less sexually driven, like pretty half naked women on Instagram standing in front of art. Okay, but for every one of those people in that photograph, there's a million other stories that are happening in and around the city that, in my opinion, have a lot more value.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're people overcoming adversity together and
Exactly.
setting up art that survived 55-mile-an-hour winds for 3 hours and so on and so forth. So yeah, man, I think
Yeah,
that's part of it.
I think another part of this is a lot of, I mean, like you're saying, like bottom up. I mean, that's how almost everything kind of happens at Burning Man. Talk to Ron John. He knows all about this.
Yeah,
Like people, like the org kind of recognizes things, and sometimes they'll incorporate and bring in, be like, okay, now this is an organizational principle. Only after like it becomes a thing, and then they're kind of like, oh, this is what you all want. I mean, the 10 principles, that's
right.
how that came about. Like Burning Man was around for like a dozen years or more before like Larry ever took pen to paper. It's not like, at the beach before he burned the man, he's like, hold on, let me get a piece of paper and write these
Right.
things down. Like
Right. Right. I mean, we're what, 27, I think, amendments to the Constitution, right? Something like
uh,
that.
let's not bring American politics.
Well, I just mean that,
Yeah,
like,
3 hour
that
podcast.
our fucking 10 principles can be amended and updated and expanded, as well as we as a culture
Mm,
uh, tell the world what we find value in,
mhm.
right? Instead of waiting for you know the 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 org to tell us.
Yeah.
So
All
so
right. Well,
when are we going to organize this summit that we just agreed needs to happen, Andy?
talking
And
take guys
can
and like, yeah,
it
I
yeah
wish he was talking about something like this. But anyway, normally I do an hour and 15. I think we're almost an hour and 30, but I decided to go a little longer because I thought this bit at the end with the consent was actually quite important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Agreed.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you for the interview. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate, and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. The more reviews the show has, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Also, please tell a friend and share this show with anyone that you think might like it. Word of mouth reaches quite far, especially in the Burning Man community. If you would like to contact us, please send an email to shadowofthemanpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow Shadow of the Man on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, and YouTube. The links for all of these are available at shadowoftheman.com. Feel free to use any of these social media accounts to provide any feedback you might have. Your thoughts on the show are greatly appreciated. Thank you, and see you soon for a new episode of The Shadow of the Man.
Thank you for listening to this latest show. We have to make another one, so gotta go. Don't worry, for next month we already have one in the can. Very soon you'll be listening to a new Shadow of the Man.